Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Oh, yes, from talking world peace and security and the roles of international institutions in this, we move now to business. And let's look at the role of advertising for business growth and success. The last conversation ended with us talking about, or with our analysts talking about, bragging rights. So let's bring it now to your business. Does your business have a bragging right? What is the way to having bragging right for your business? How do you ensure that your business or your business name is the first name that comes to mind when people think about a product that you offer? If they have to think about a product that they need, that you and so many others offer, does your business name come to mind? I'm just asking, have you become a household name? How do you achieve that? Well, we have a communication and marketing strategist in the house this morning, and it is Vincent and Anani. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Good morning. Good to meet you. And pleasure to be on the show this morning throughout this conversation.
All right. Well, good you feel that way. And we know that we can get a lot from this conversation today because this is a business show. So if you're a business person, get a pen, get a paper or a book even. This is free lesson coming your way. You will need it. Trust me, you will need the knowledge that you will get from this show today. If we talk about advertising, it's not new. It's been there from time immemorial when businesses use different methods to put their business out there. Just make sure that's in the face of the target market. But times have changed, and so advertising has evolved. Could you take us through the journey from what it used to be, what it is currently now? What are the modes of advertising before we look at what it can provide or do for a business?
Interesting. Like you rightly mentioned at the beginning, that advertising has grown over the years. It started from what we call oral tradition, right? Word of mouth, where people just pass on stories about businesses via verbal conversations. And then I think sometime in 15th century or thereabouts, in England, we had the first printed advertising, which was meant for the promotion of a book. And that is how mass advertising started. And of course, over the years, mass communication has evolved from TV to radio to print advertising, and now to the age of digital technology, digital media, where we have social media and other online forms of advertising. And this has significantly changed the landscape of advertising, and even the concept of advertising and the landscape of advertising as we know it. Before, it used to be one-way advertising, right, where brands are only talking to their consumers, or brands are only talking to their audience, maybe via a print medium or radio or TV. But with the advent of social media and digital technology, we now see that technology has democratized advertising in such a way, because now we have two-way communication between brands and the audience that they serve. We have two-way communication between brands and their audience, because you're passing message to your consumers. They also give you feedback real time. And so we've seen that over the last decade, a lot of trends have evolved to shape the face of advertising, and as we know it. And then, of course, smart businesses and brands globally and locally as well are beginning to adapt to the changing dynamics of advertising to be able to grab that market share. Now, when we talk about advertising, two things are very key. We have what we call top of mind, and then share of mind, and then share of wallet. So because advertising plays a lot of role when it comes to business, it helps to shape, it builds brand beyond driving sales. Advertising also play a very important role in shaping how we perceive brands. Because over the years, you can close your eyes now and then think of one or two global brands that you probably don't even have the product or the service that they offer, but those brands are already in your mind. And then maybe the next time you have opportunity to want to buy something in that category, definitely those brands will come to your mind. And that is one of the important role that advertising plays for brands and for business, putting you at the top of mind of your target consumer.
Well, some school of thought, if I had to go with the local balance, say, Gary no need advert, but then they sell pass. So some people believe that, a good product sells itself.
Absolutely, yes.
Such, you don't need the huge wage bill that comes with advertisement. I'd want you to speak to that.
Okay, I mean, what you said is very interesting. In fact, it was one of the comments I was going to say at the beginning that the first thing about advertising is you even need to have a good product. Like you rightly said, that a good product sell itself. But take a look at it like a marketplace where you walk into a market square and there's so much noise, right? And then maybe on a particular store, you have 5 women or 5 people selling the same thing, maybe similar products or offering similar services. And then what advertising does in these instances, it distinguishes you, it sets you apart, right? It sets you apart. So you're attracting people to yourself. So, I mean, having a good product without making noise about it is akin to what we call blinking in the dark, right? You're just in the dark, you're blinking. You're blinking, right? But nobody's seeing it because you're blinking in the dark. So, and that is something that's a gap that advertising come to do, come to fix for you. And then beyond that, there's also something called, when we intend for product and service, right? We have a functional benefit and we have emotional benefit. So there are some products, everyday utility products that are functional. Maybe I want to buy water, for example. Of course, I may need to see a water advert, but I may not necessarily be convinced by a water advert to buy a particular kind of water because water gives me a functional benefit, right? I need it to survive. So, but we also have what we call emotional benefit that we derive from brands. And then so from products. So brands then need to find a balance of functional benefit that they're offering to consumer or emotional benefit that they're offering to consumer. Let's say, for example, of course, I've not driven a Rolls Royce before, right? Rolls Royce gives an emotional benefit to consumers, and then they have their target market. Water gives functional benefit, they have their target market. So advertising helps you to bridge that gap. So even if you have a good product, people still need to know that you have a good product. And then, especially in maybe if you now find yourself in a sector or an industry that is very competitive, whereby your competitors are offering similar services, maybe at similar value, similar product, at similar value, then one thing that now stands you out, or one thing that distinguishes you, is the critical role that advertising plays in your in your brand strategy. And then beyond that, one thing that is also very, very important is your messaging. And that's where what we call creative advertising comes into play. How you're able to tell your story, the story about your product, how you're able to tell the story about the service that you offer, the value of what you're giving to the consumer, and then that stands you out in the marketplace.
Okay, going by the analogy of the Rolls Royce and then the water, functional product and emotional product. So it means that for a functional product, sometimes you could place it anywhere because people would need it.
Absolutely.
They will get it.
Absolutely.
But for an emotional product, you really need to do targeting so that those who would need it because it's not a functional product would actually see that.
Yes.
Which comes to where you advertise. How do you decide the place that is good for your advertising? So your target market can say it. How do you come to that decision to say this is where I place my advert or not?
Okay, so for every brand or every business, before you get into a market, the first thing you need to do is to know your target audience, right? Which you call target audience analysis or segmentation. If I want to use technical parlance. So, because you cannot go into the market without even knowing who your target audience are. So, as a business owner, that's the first thing. As you're creating products or creating services, the first thing you need to understand is who are the targets of this product or these services. That's the first thing. Once you get that done, and then from that, you start doing your what we call market segmentation or market analysis. What is the value of your product? Who are people that are in need of this product? Who can afford this product? Where are they? And then by the time you start doing that analysis, you start realizing that, okay, this is who my product is, because all products are not for everybody. Every product is not for everybody, right? We have what we call niche products that are segmented to certain kind of people or certain kind of class. And then when you're doing your analysis as a business, you need to know what is the classification for what we call socio-economic class in marketing, where you have your category A, category E, B, up to E. And then all of these are different ladders of social classes. And then by the time you realize that, and now let me drill it down further. You now start thinking of, if these are the people that I want to talk to, if they are my target audience, then the next question is, what platform can I reach them on, right? So for example, maybe an advert that you see in an in-flight magazine, for example, you probably see an advert in an in-flight magazine. You will not see that advert at any other regular place, because the people, the brand or the business who have placed that advert in an in-flight magazine, they have a target audience, and they know that their target audience are frequent flyers, or maybe the business lounge of an airport. So when you have been able to identify who your audience is, and then you decide on what platforms. It could be maybe traditional, it could be on TV, it could be on radio, it could be in print, it could be on digital. Even on digital, you still have to further, and then interestingly, that's what one of the benefits of digital technology now, what we call targeting. For example, I can serve an ad, right, to people in this locality. And then based on certain parameters that I've set for my ad, it's not everybody that will see that ad. I will only people that I'm targeting to see that ad will be seeing that ad. And so back to the question is, one, identify who your target audience are. What are the platforms that they engage in? Now, for example, if I want to run a local product, right? If I want to set maybe advertise a local product, I probably may not use a national TV station. I'll rather maybe use a local radio station where I know that my audience will be listening to. Or maybe use a community newspaper, put an advert in a community newspaper. So again, it depends on who your target audience are and what platform you think they consume. And then, of course, more importantly, is also the messaging, right? It's also the messaging, because certain kind of message appeal to certain kind of audience. And so, not like they say, one size does not often fit all in advertising. So you have to segment your audience, and then get the right channel or the platform that they consume, and then create the right stories and the right message that resonates with them.
So we've seen an evolution on various advertising platforms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So from the newspapers, we saw radio, and then TV, black and white, colored, and now we have social media, the online digital platform. You now have search engine optimization and certain parameters in the mix. If you had to look, into a certain crystal ball, which of them do you think is going to fall off on the ladder or on the pedestal of relevance?
Okay. I like the question, because this is usually some question that we ask behind the scene when we are doing maybe some of our strategy sessions around, maybe we want to take a product to a market, or want to launch a service or brand or whatever. These are some of the very vital questions that we ask ourselves. And then, like you rightly said, there's been an evolution. And then for every evolution or for every innovation that comes to the market, some things fall off, and then we have emerging platforms. From what we've seen over the years, it's safe to say that, and I'm being very careful now, that gradually print is beginning to fade. Print still holds relevance, right? It still holds significant relevance, at least for authenticity and for a certain category of audience. But we live in a very mobile world whereby you can access information on the go. Instead of waiting till tomorrow morning to pick up a newspaper to get the news. Maybe as the news is breaking this night, I'm on my phone and I'm seeing it. And so and if you see it, it's global, it's not just Nigeria. The volume of print publication is gradually fading. And I think that maybe over the years, print might be significantly affected. But talking about other platforms, I think most of the other platforms are still doing very well. And then digital media is growing at a very, very, very huge rate. And then that also points to the question of being able to pivot. And then that's why we now see that a lot of traditional media, print media houses now have online versions, right? Traditional media, print media, they have online versions whereby maybe some of the things you see in print, you probably see some of them online. and that is they're also evolving with time and adapting. So I think maybe print might be sort of a danger of extinction, but
So social media or the digital media, which a lot of businesses are moving to right now, also has its complexities.
absolutely,
One of them is algorithm.
yes.
There are platforms that some businesses have complained that they run adverts on, but the algorithm doesn't favor them. How does one navigate these things, the complexities of digital media advertising?
Interesting. So for me, this is like my area of specialty. Digital media is my area of specialty, right? So one thing about all of these platforms is the platform owners, they're also optimizing for profit, right? They're also optimizing for profit. And most of these platforms run on AI technology, you know. They optimize, they update their algorithms based on user interactions and user behaviors on some of these platforms. So maybe if you go on your any of your social media pages, the way you interact over time, it's sending back certain information to the platform, and it, based on some of those interactions that we are all having on these platforms, it's shaping the nature of the algorithm and how the algorithm is optimized for better experience for users and also for advertisers. So, but when it comes to digital advertising, one of the very important questions to ask is, one, which platform fits your product or your service the best? Maybe a product that probably run ad campaign for on Twitter, I may not be very good to run similar campaign on Instagram, or may not be very good to run similar campaign on LinkedIn. So you also need to understand your target audience. Again, it comes back to knowing who you're speaking to. And then maybe sometime, I think, maybe not sometime, most of the time, advertising budgets also is a very key factor. What is the size or volume of your advertising budget? That will also then determine which platform, how do you optimize your campaign across each of the different platforms, and then who you are targeting. So I think for digital advertisers, it's just to keep abreast of trends, because most of these platforms, they're also getting feedback and they're also updating from time to time. They are tweaking things, they are changing things. And as business owner that is running advert on this platform, you also just have to keep abreast of these trends. As they evolve with time, you also evolve your strategy to work across each of these platforms effectively and be able to get the most what we call ROI, return on investment for your digital advertising efforts.
So what the problem a lot of business owners have is how much they should set aside for advertising, and it comes with a great deal of headache, and more so you don't understand why.
Yes.
You have a capital set out, you have to run your business. So how much should I really set aside for advertising? And so if you had to put a percentage to it, how much would you say from a percentage, one could put out to run ads for their business?
Okay, so for me, I think one of the very important things for business owners, anybody that run business, is to have basic knowledge of numbers, right? It's very important if you run a business, have basic knowledge of numbers, maybe an Excel sheet somewhere that allows you to track basic things. So it's not a fixed figure to say dedicate this amount to your advertising spend. No. What it is at what stage is your business, and what percentage of your capital expenditure can you afford to put on advertising? Are you just coming into the market and you want to grab sizable market share? If you're just coming into the market as a new entrant, you obviously want to spend a lot more on advertising. But if you've gotten to a certain stage in the market that you already have certain maybe top of mind awareness to a certain extent, then your advertising budget may not be as much as when you're just coming into the market. And again, it could also be a function of, in your industry, how competitive is your industry? How are the consumers, how are they reacting to the different brands and the different players in that industry? That can also inform the amount or the percentage of your capital expenditure that are also contributing to, you're dedicating to advertising. So I will not say there's a fixed figure to say this percentage of your earning as a business is what should be dedicated to advertising. But more importantly, is also to be able to do the numbers, right? For example, let's say you sell a product for 15 naira. Maybe your product is 15 naira per pack, and then you make 10 naira on that profit on that product. You want to come back and sit to say, and then maybe in a week, and then this is me going into numbers now in how to decide or determine what amount you should be contributing, you should dedicate to advertising. So you have a product of 50 naira, and then you make a profit of 10 naira per product, and maybe you sell maybe 10 packs in a week, and then that's 10 times 10, that's 100 naira profit. Yeah. Then you're telling yourself that if I commit XYZ amount of this money into adverts, maybe it can move me selling from 10 packs per week to 15 packs per week or 20 packs per week. And then you do those numbers, right? And then when you do those numbers, it then informs you to say, okay, you know what, based on all of this that I've done, I think maybe I can be able to commit this percentage of the budget to advertising.
Now, we're talking about advertising for business growth and success. So if business starts and over time it grows big with advertising, one would think that after a while they stop or reduce advertising. But they're there in your face. You Absolutely. Go online, they're almost like the first business you see for a category of product or service. They are there. Yes. And the small ones are just starting and putting some money into advertising. And some may feel like they're not getting the expected result. Is advertising really what leads to business growth?
Okay.
That's one question. Right. And then for the big businesses that are already there, the awareness is there. They become a household name. Why do they still put money? Why do they still do that extensive or vigorous advertising that on any platforms, almost on any platforms, you see them there? What is the business sense in that? You're already known, but still, lots of money goes into advertising. And on the other hand, one is doing advertising, not getting result. What could be wrong?
Interesting. So I think I'll start with the second question. So for big businesses, somebody once said that when a new player enters into a market, it takes a share of the existing players in that market. So for a big business, established business, you want to guard your market share fiercely, right? You don't want some new entrants or some new entrants or some new players to come into the market share, to come and take off your market share. And the one thing about advertising is not just to drive sales. No. Advertising is an integral part of brand building and brand sustenance over the years. I mean, there are some popular brands that, let's say maybe Coca-Cola, for example. Coca-Cola has been there for decades, years, but it still commits a huge chunk of money into advertising. It's because they've shaped our mindset and our perception about carbonated drinks over the years. And we have other brands that have become category definition. So, for example, maybe if I mention...
You didn't have to mention the name because you haven't put your money here.
Okay, all right. So there are brands that have become category names because they've sustained that top of mind. They are in your face every time. And because they want to do that consistently, because they want to safeguard their market share and they want to remain in your mind. Then coming back to the issue of small players versus big players, I think everywhere in any industry around the world, globally, that will always play out, right? That will always play out. For small businesses that are coming into certain terrains, you need to come with some unique advantage, right? What stands you out that if they put you side by side, these bigger brands, there is something that edges you. And then if you have that singular, unique advantage, you can communicate, you can double down on amplifying that to say, you know what, this is what I bring, this is the value that I bring to market. And then, like they say, the young shall grow. Start from where you are and then have what we call a moonshot plan. So say maybe over the next 3 years, over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years, this is how I want to grow my brands. You can't come into an established market and want to dominate at the beginning because they are already established players. So you can have a strategy, what we call a moonshot plan for your brand and how you want to do your advertising over a period of time. And then gradually you start growing, you start penetrating, and you start winning market share as well.
Well, if you had to look at the Nigerian business space, you know, a lot of brands have successfully I mean, they've successfully remained in our faces.
Yes.
Yeah, you've mentioned a couple of them. But then some businesses have made mistakes. They've put in money and it hasn't returned any income. There's not been any ROI, no benefit whatsoever. I don't know if you could speak to some of the mistakes that advertisers do or businesses make during advertising that, leads them to losing instead of making profit.
Okay. I think one of the first things we said on this during this session is that a bad product is a bad product. A good product is a good product. First, ensure that you have a good product. One. Then there's something we call product market fit. Does your product, does it fit the market? Is the market ready for your product? Do they need your product? Because if you bring certain product or service into a market and they don't need it, you can pour all the dollars, all the advertising dollars into advertising. You can pour all your money into advertising. People will hear about you, but people will not buy your product. They will not engage your service. So first is to have a good product, because even a good product, it makes it even easier for you to sell. And you have to ensure that there's a need for the product or your service, right? You have to ensure that there's a need for your product or your service. And then again, it's also the conversation around in marketing or advertising, there's something we call A/B testing. It's very important. A/B testing is you go into markets, maybe you run adverts with two different approach. You do this, you do this. And then you see the result of this, you see the result of that. And then based on what you've gotten, you can be able to revise your strategy and then go back again. And then you A/B test until you realize that, okay, I think this is one that is working. So A/B testing helps you to save your advertising budget, because you're testing, you're not putting in all your funds into advertising at once. Maybe you want to run a campaign, for example, and you do a TVC or a TV commercial, or maybe it's a particular creative design that you want to promote or a video. You promote this on this platform with this amount. You tweak it again with maybe it's another kind of messaging, and then you try it, and then you test before you launch out fully. By the time you've done A/B testing very well, you realize that, okay, I think this is what works for me, and then you can go into market with that. Of course, in marketing, there's always experimentation, right? In advertising, there's always experimentation. So you can always experiment at first with maybe a minimal budget to, let me push this.
Not just pushing your whole funds into it.
Of course, not just pushing the whole funds into it. So you experiment at first. Okay, you test this works, this does not work, you get feedback. And the interesting thing about digital advertising is, that I mentioned earlier, is the two-way conversation. So you can put up maybe a poll, for example, about a new product that you're coming to market with, or a survey, or anything that you want, maybe a poll or a survey, and you get feedback from users. Maybe for some of these tech startups that want to launch certain products into the market, right? They get what we call, there's a user testing phase whereby they release a version of that product to a limited amount of people for use over a period.
Beta version.
Yes, beta version you get. And then they get feedback from those first set of users. Then they go back, they reiterate, they make that product better, and then they come into the market and then they launch. Maybe if you had launched into the market with that beta version, it would have probably failed. But you get that feedback with your beta version from a limited number of people. And that is also part of the experimentation that I talk about. So I think maybe experimentation helps you to save advertising budget, and then maybe also having that knowledge of your market, what your audience wants per time. And don't forget that we are humans. Our changes per time. Our what we want per time changes over time, and then there's trends are evolving, new things are coming to the market. We have cultural impact, and so for a tested communication or marketing professional and advertiser, you need to put in all of these factors into consideration before you launch an advertising campaign, so that you're not wasting your advertising money.
So chances are a satisfied client or customer will come back.
Absolutely.
You may have a good product, but the delivery of the product does not keep the customer satisfied, so the customer may not come back. While we're talking about the evolution of the methods and modes of advertising, you mentioned one, the very old method, word of mouth.
Yes.
What people say about your product.
Oh.
In today's marketing, how relevant is word of mouth?
So for me, I think every business aspiration, every brand and business aspiration is to get to a point where your customers becomes the one who has promoting your product. Everybody needs word of mouth because it remains the most authentic and the most organic form of marketing, word of mouth. And then part of our own, some of the strategy that we do in marketing is what we call testimonial marketing, right? So what we do is we get people who have used your product or service to come and testify to the fact that, oh, I've used this product and I've used this service. That is one form of word of mouth marketing because every brand wants to get to that point whereby you can take a back seat and then your customers are the ones that are selling your product. I think it's still word of mouth still play a very, very, very critical role. And because another reason why word of mouth is also very, very powerful is because it builds trust. Word of mouth is coming from someone who has used the product and likes it, and then is able to recommend that to somebody else. So I think word of mouth is still very, very, very relevant and very powerful. And that's why brands chase testimonials, because it validates the efficacy of their service or the product that they put in the market.
All right. So over the years, as a media professional, you hear things like MPS rating, media planning service rating, and then you realize that agencies actually use these ratings to determine where they place ads.
Yes.
Right. And then the question as to how you garner or you gather or get a compilation of platforms to which you place these ads come to mind. I mean, how do you get the statistics of which ranks higher than the other? And so I want to put it to you. I mean, like for you, what do you employ? So if you want to run a campaign on a media platform, TV, or let's leave the digital aspect, what do you look to as a source of data for you to place your ads? And, what are the yardsticks and the various components of that?
All right, thank you. So research is key for what we do. Research is very, very key. And then there's also something we call historical data, right? Because whether you like it or not, it's the past that shapes the present, and the present shapes the future. So sometimes we go to historical data to say these platforms or this channel over time, how have they performed over time? That is one. And then for traditional media platform, we try to get their reach. Reach is very, very powerful. Okay. Reach is very, very important to see. Maybe, for example, this XYZ platform, what is your reach? One, what is your user? How many people get to view your platform or engage with your platform? What locations do you have strength in? And then who are your audience demography in terms of what's the age range of
people who get to listen or watch you?
What are their interests? So as a media platform, you should also have those data, and then we reach out from time to time because we already have over time, based on what we have done over time, we've been able to put together certain historical data. And then when we need certain kind of campaigns, we just look at to say, okay, you know what? I think this platform should work for this campaign because over time, this is what their viewer base is like, this is what their reach is like, and this is at the category of people that listen to this platform. So I think historical data helps us, and then constant researching and constantly updating our own knowledge and information base works strongly helps us. And then that's feed into our media planning strategy, because for every campaign you want to do, beyond all of the messaging, the storytelling, and all of that, you must have what we call a media plan. And we have expertise, people who are expert at doing what we call media planning, where they'll be able to drop each of the platforms, the relevance of those platforms to this campaign, the amount that you can possibly dedicate to each of those platforms in order to achieve the kind of result that you want.
So there's an argument between product and service. Some say it's easier to sell product than service. So I saw the title of a book, How to Sell Service. So tell me, is it more challenging to sell product or service? What are the challenges of selling service?
Okay, so this is, I would say that whatever it is you are selling, the fundamentals of marketing and advertising remains the same. That's the honest truth. The fundamentals of marketing and advertising remain the same. Whether you're selling a product or you're selling a service, you still have to do your target audience analysis. You have to do your the market fit, you have to do your market analysis. So I would say that. So for selling a service, think of it as a product. I don't know if you get my point, because product is tangible, service is not tangible. But you can think of service as a product and apply the same principle to sell it. Because in the end, you're buying a product because you want to derive certain benefit from that product. Same way, you want to get a service. You're subscribing to a service because you want to derive certain benefits from that service. So I think the fundamentals are basically the same. Just think of it that I'm selling a product. So think of that service as something that somebody can hold, somebody can feel, right? You can use testimonials to sell your product. You can also use testimonials to sell your service. You do your research before developing a product that you go into the market for. You also do your product before coming up with the service that you want to go into the market for. But so I'll say the fundamentals are pretty much the same.
Are the fundamentals the same thing when you want to sell someone? I mean, a person's brand, a person's identity. I mean,
reputation management.
I get again. To be honest, something that has worked for me is I see everything through the eyes of a product. I want to sell something. I want to build a personal brand for an individual.
Yeah,
that individual is a product. The audience you're trying to reach is the target market. That individual has certain characteristics that makes that person unique. Same thing for products. This product is this. What distinguishes different products is the benefit that they give to the end users. So I see you as a person. We have a conversation and analyze you. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then in between all of that, I am already mapping. I'm doing like what we call a persona. I'm designing a target persona for you as an individual. And then when all of that is done, I then still use again the same approach to get into the market. So in this case now, how do you communicate? What tone do you want to communicate in? Who is your target audience? How do you want to be positioned in the marketplace or in your industry? And I'll start distilling all of those things. And then I think it might even be much easier to sell an individual than even a product or a service, to be honest.
All right, finally from me, PR, public relations these days seem to be subtle and nobody targeting you, but they're very in the face. How do you react to that?
Okay, I think the nature of PR is even meant to be subtle in the first place. It's meant to be subtle or strategic. And then when we talk about the whole marketing communication landscape or ecosystem, all of this, they all play a role. Advertising plays its role. PR plays its role as well. I think PR is PR, to be honest. It just sometimes it could be dependent on the product or on the brand or the business that you're working with, and what is the end goal of the PR efforts that decide or determine how you approach your PR strategy. So yes, in the end, you want to build certain reputation for your brand. The end goal. You want to, same thing with advertising, you want to be top of mind of your consumer for advertising. So I think there are both sides of it, two sides of a coin, So it depends on what your end goal is as a business. At time, that determines what direction that you want to go into.
Vincent and Anani, I probably will be submitting myself to proper branding and
not a problem.
Sell me off to wherever.
Absolutely not a problem.
He's already assured you that selling the person is easier than selling the product.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so where are you selling me to now?
Where do you want to be sold?
Okay, so we're not talking about slavery. We'll be talking about advertising and how to, of course, employ the tools, in a perfect marketing mix in order to grow your business to achieve success. In the studio and on set has been Vincent Anani, who is a marketing and communication strategist. Earlier on, we spoke about Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria, trying to see if they can find a space, a seat at the United Nations Security Council. And that comes with a lot of fight from some of the African countries who also feel deserving of a space. We had Dr. Samuel Zeda, who felt it was important that as a country, we look inwards, put our hearts together first, which if you just oppose this with advertising, I mean, package the good product, brand yourself, and you might just grow to achieve success in the end. I've been in the studio with the delectable, partner in progress, Blessing Eichie. I want to use this opportunity to thank you for being a part of Early Exchange, watching and following through. Would look forward to your comments, your observations, and of course the engagement. It goes further to making the show worthwhile and better. On behalf of everyone who has ensured that you can receive us crisp, loud and clear, of course the producer and everyone on the crew, thank you so much for watching. My name is Temple Barrah.
Well, delectable does suit me. I just hope that Tici, you're not trying to buy your way into what I do not know. But thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a comment on our social media platforms at SOUQ News TV. And you can also tell us what are your thoughts on the issues discussed today. Market Insight comes up at 11 here on SOUQ News TV. Stay with us because you will benefit a lot. That pen and book, it didn't go to waste, I'm very sure. We'll see you again tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time. Bye.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.